obviously, I think there's a lot of opportunities in downtown Amarillo, and to the extent that things can move in the right direction, I think there could be some wonderful opportunities for all the citizens there.
One of the things that we've been looking at most recently was this lawsuit that came up out of Waco on the project down there with Michael Ray, and I wanted to ask you to kind of tell me what happened there.
No, I'd be happy to. When we first got involved in the Waco situation, and this is probably more of an answer than what you're looking for, but I'll just kind of give you just from a background information perspective. When I first went down to Waco, was talking with the mayor, the city manager, and some of the other folks in the downtown area, and quite honestly, there was a lot of let's just say opportunities for improvement. A lot of buildings that were boarded up, a lot of homelessness situations, just an opportunity that how could we help from a revitalization standpoint, and came up with a plan and sat down, worked with council, worked with the city manager, leadership, chamber, so on and so forth, as it relates, and quite honestly, many citizens as well from a visioning perspective. Came up with a master plan for 5 city blocks in the downtown area, and entered into a long-term ground lease with the city of Waco. And that's basically what we did. There were certain components that we wanted to see. We wanted to make sure that in any mixed-use development, you can't just do one piece at a time. You have to do a lot, because you can't just do retail if you don't have the rooftops or the other offices to support it. You can't do residential if you don't have the other services. So you have to do a lot of them at the same time, which requires a great deal of capital. As we were moving forward, we said, all right, we know we want student housing, we know we want loft-over retail, we want restaurants, we want to take older buildings, renovate them, warehouse district type of things. So that's what we started moving forward on. In the loft-over retail, there's a very similar development here in Sugarland Town Square. And right adjacent to City Hall, there's loft residential, and I think in this case here it's like 170 units over retail. And we knew that that's what we wanted. And as we were putting together the plan, we had different folks within Waco approach us from the standpoint of we'd like to come in and be a development partner on certain components. Knowing that asset was going to be more of a condominium type of an asset where you have a lot of, let's just say, greater involvement with the potential owner on everything from carpet samples, granite samples, countertops, everything. We knew that having somebody local would be of great benefit. So we entered into an agreement with Michael Ray. He was brought to us through a broker in Waco. We entered into an agreement where, in effect, we would turn around and sublease initially half of a city block, and then ultimately about another eighth of a city block in a separate transaction. We entered into that agreement. He started construction. We were initially, it was just going to be an arm's length transaction. He was going to take it and run with it. When he got to the closing table, he was, I think, about $250,000 short of the capital needed to close. And so he asked us, would you guys stay in for a $250,000 limited partnership interest? And all in all, I think there was about $1 million of equity raised. So I said, sure, we'll do that, and we'll end up owning 20-25% of the deal, and be a passive limited partner on that. Now, as we move forward, there were some issues that Michael encountered, whether they were cost overruns, whether they were design issues. To make a long story short, we became aware sometime in 2009, mid-year, June, July, August timeframe, somewhere in that order of magnitude, that there was about a $2.5 million shortfall that Michael had. And it wasn't just, hey, we have a shortfall. It was something that was an evolutionary process where we started to dig into it. year, we basically had stepped in and had funded, we made our final payment to the general contractor, I don't know, 30 days ago, 45 days ago. So we paid it off in increments of about $150,000, $200,000 a month. So we paid off the full $2.5 million to the general contractor and basically extinguished that lien, as well as about 45 subcontractor liens. So got everyone paid in full in connection with that. That was wonderful. As we move forward by putting in that additional capital, we stepped in as a substitute general partner. The separate transaction, and the reason I say separate transaction, there was another 1/8 of a block that was adjacent to this the first building I was just describing. But the 1/8 of a block, Michael was going to build. I think he had talked about building a couple of restaurants within a retail, and then also some type of a spa, a fitness center or something on the second floor of that building. When we started digging into this transaction, we started realizing that what Michael had done was, in order, because of the cost overruns that he had on the first project, in order to get the bank to advance additional dollars to him, he pledged the land in that second partnership to the bank, which was a totally separate. It would be no different than me pledging your house for my loan somewhere else, because it was a separate partnership, separate individual investors, so on and so forth. And so when we determined what had happened, what we did this year was we found a way to, in effect, sell that second piece of land, get the loan paid off with the bank, and basically use the proceeds to do that, which they had a lien on all the proceeds anyways. And then we had set up a meeting with all of the partners to basically show them how we would be coming up with additional capital to get them paid off. I think it was prior to June of next year. And so we have a number of partners that have said, that's great, that'll be fine. There's one partner that said that, no, I don't want that. In fact, you may not know it, but I've got a put where I can put my ownership interest back to the partnership. Here it is, signed by Michael Ray 3 years ago, which we knew nothing about. So I think that's the basis of what you're talking about. And we're confident that it will get resolved. We're not letting any of the assets fail in Waco. To the contrary, we've come up with probably over $3 million of additional capital beyond what we initially anticipated in all of these efforts to make sure that things continue to move forward. Again, that's a long answer to your question, but I just wanted to make sure you had the background information on it as well. Yeah, I've yet to be served with it, so I haven't seen it. I've only J.B. Smith, who's the reporter with the Waco Trib, had called me about it, and he was describing it to me. So, but I haven't even seen it yet.
Can you help me understand? I mean, do you know why Bonnet is suing you guys, and why? I mean, why are you named in this suit, and why? I guess maybe you can tell me, because I talked to Larry. Is it Groth? Yes.
Larry Groth.
About it, and he said that part of this project, or all of this project, is in bankruptcy right now, and it's coming out of bankruptcy later this month.
No, none of these assets that we're talking about here that are involved in this litigation. None of those are in bankruptcy.
What was Larry referring to? Do you know? I mean, do you have anything in bankruptcy right now?
Yeah, there's a student housing asset that is in Waco that went into a chapter proceeding on September 7th, and the confirmation hearing is on December 23rd, and that was as a result of our senior lender in connection with that, in effect, refused to come up with a final $1.9 million draw to pay off our general contractor. Reason being that there was an overall drop in real estate values throughout the nation, and when they had a property reappraised, the loan to value changed. based on the covenants that we had in the documentation. So we've worked with our senior lender. We worked with our general contractor. We've already filed the plan. We've already filed the disclosure statement. It's all been approved. The confirmation hearing is on December 23rd. And so literally in less than 4 months from the petition date, we believe that that asset will be out of bankruptcy with all the creditors receiving 100 cents on the dollar. So that's the asset I'm sure Larry's referring to.
Okay, and that's he calls it a dormitory, but I'm not...
Yeah, it's kind of an off-campus student housing asset, student living.
And that's separate and apart from the Waco Town Square project, right? Right,
that's correct. And again, the Waco Town Square project, you asked the question, why is it that why was I named in this suit? I've stepped in to replace the general partner. And by virtue of the prior general partner being Michael Ray formed the company, the entity, raised the capital, went out and solicited money from James Bonnet. James invested just like we did, in the same basis, us as a limited partner. And when things started affecting Michael in an adverse way, I stepped in as the general partner. I say one of our entities, we did. And so I'm assuming that's why my name is involved in that. But again, it's a situation that we don't see it as a material issue, just from the standpoint that I had already met with his client and had indicated to both him as well as the other partners, here's a way that everyone's going to get all of their money back out of this investment. Again, it wasn't our partnership. We stepped in as a substitute general partner and are now fixing those issues. And after I had that conversation with him, his lawyer called me, I don't know, maybe 45 days ago, 2 months ago, I guess, and informed me, oh, by the way, you may not know it, but my client, James Bonnet, received a put, meaning that him, as opposed to any of the other partners, he's the only one that apparently Michael Ray, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't even know when it was, unilaterally gave him a put where at any point in time, if he doesn't like the investment, he can put it back to the partnership and get his money back. And in effect, that's what I had already offered to him, but I'm assuming that his lawyer wanted to, I guess, accelerate that process or something, which I guess is probably why he filed the lawsuit. And again, I'm sure it will be resolved satisfactorily to all parties.
You said you hooked up with Michael Ray through a broker?
Yeah, broker in it was Coldwell Banker, if I'm not mistaken. In Waco, introduced him to us. And did the broker represent any due diligence to you? Well, I mean, obviously everything is a learning experience, but when you took a look at different projects that he had been involved with, at that point in time, he had done identical loft residential over retail in Houston, in Austin, and was new to the Waco scene. And so from that perspective, we had the confidence that he would be able to move forward and do an appropriate development. He surrounded himself with good general contractors, good architects, good engineers. The lender was kind of the cream of the crop of Waco. So from our perspective, and again, remember, we were subleasing to him. Initially, we weren't going to have an equity ownership interest, but that equity ownership interest is now expanded greatly. Would you have any interest in buying it? I'd love to sell it to you if you want. Today and today only.
I don't think so.
All right.
One of the other cases that we looked at that came up was, and in fact, I think this is part of that original story in Harris County with the Wachovia suing your firm as guarantors on a default on a development loan, and the petition alleged that the unpaid loan amount was, at the time time of default was 1.9, and then Wachovia withdrew that lawsuit. Did you guys work out a payment schedule or pay it off? How was it that Wachovia withdrew the suit? And was that on the Creekmont deal, or was that on another deal?
No, I'm trying to think which project you're referring to. I mean, I will tell you that any time a lender would withdraw a lawsuit, it's because there's been a resolution to it. So, I mean, we've got Wachovia in several different projects, which I guess is Wells Fargo now.
And then you've got Harris County suing Morton and Porter. Who are Morton and Porter?
Morton and Porter is a partnership. If you'll recall, in the same situation with Creekmont.
Yeah.
Morton and Porter was one of 7 different projects that we were brought in by a group of limited partners as a substitute general partner to basically replace the prior general partner. When we stepped in, all 7 of those properties were in default. In effect, we have cured all of the defaults. We made the recommendation to the limited partners that the only use of the Creekmont property was for a retail development, just given its proximity at the entry of a single-family subdivision on a major arterial. And we basically, given the economy, given where retail development or the lack thereof at this point in time is, we made the recommendation that it was to be good money after bad, and we advised the investors that we recommended not to move forward with that. So in that situation, that was something that we worked with Frost Bank. You said Wachovia, it was Frost Bank in Creekmont,
right?
And conveyed the property back to Frost. And again, in that situation, there's a dispute between us and Frost as it relates to what the dollar amount of the deficiency claim is in connection with that, and we're continuing to have discussion about that as it relates to a resolution.
Now that Creekmont development is next to property owned by Perry, Will Perry, Rob Perry. We're not sure.
Perry Homes is that's Bob Perry.
Bob Perry, yeah.
Yeah. He owns land, and then that was his son was the former general partner of that, and I guess the economic arrangement that he had struck with his dad when acquiring that. Again, we stepped in after it was in default, and the Wachovia situation on Morton and Porter was exactly the same way.
Okay.
That was in default when we stepped into it. And you know, as you can see, that lawsuit was dropped, so we worked things out.
But the development project that was the subject of these disputes, was that a carryover from the past partnership?
It is.
With and who
with Will Perry.
Will Perry.
Correct.
What are the Morton loans? The $76,915. What?
$76,000. I mean, there were 2 large loans. One was, I think, the one you were talking about, $1.9 million. The other one was like $3 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And that $3 million loan has all been extinguished. That property's free and clear. So we've paid them off. And again, these were, when they came to us, they were all in default. We've now cured those and fixed those issues.
This other lawsuit, this Trustmark versus WB Sanctuary Development Partners, and that involves...
That too has been resolved as well.
The findings that we've got so far is that everybody has just filed general denials. How was it resolved? And was this a carryover from the Perry partnership as well, or? Well,
from a resolution perspective, resolved where the lender is working with us. And let me give you some just some background, just from a general economic perspective. A property like a single-family lot development, like the Wachovia ones that you were talking about, where those were the lenders, or a Trustmark property, going out building, acquiring 100 acres, putting in the street sewer, water infrastructure, entering into contracts with home builders to move forward and basically for them on a quarterly basis to take down X number of lots. So whether it's 10 lots a quarter, 50 lots a quarter, whatever, so some type of a takedown schedule. And that's the various transactions that some of those were ones that we were involved with. And as time went by, you had home builders, whether it was Royce Homes, Trophy Homes, Newmark Homes. Those are just three of the home builders, a lot of custom builders, where contracts had been entered into those entities to basically acquire those lots. Those entities went out of business, filed bankruptcy in many cases, where for the next year, we as the landowner had to fight through their bankruptcy in order to get those contracts rejected. In some cases, to be able to buy back lots that they had acquired from us that they were sitting on in inventory, and then having to move forward and find replacement home builders. And so when you talk about a Trustmark, Trustmark was a lender for one of those type of properties where there were 4 home builders that every single one of them went out of business. So the property was completed, debt was owed to Trustmark, the Trustmark was owed money. We entered into an agreement, in this case, with another home builder called D.R. Horton to basically buy 100% of the lots. So when you say, how did it get resolved? It got resolved from the standpoint that we've come up with a satisfactory resolution so that all of those lots can now continue to be sold. And as they're sold, obviously, the proceeds go to pay off the lender. So that's how, in response to your question, how do they get resolved? That's how it gets resolved, so that the lenders get paid in full.
Was any of this with the Trustmark and the WB Sanctuary Development Partnership and this James Beeman case? Were those a carryover from the Perry situation?
The sanctuary property was not. That was a development that we did from the ground up, and like I said, had 4 home builders, and every single one of those home builders went out of business. So I've shared with you just as to how we've solved it. So,
and is this the same development where Preferred Bank has moved on a lawsuit?
Well, Preferred Bank is a participant in a loan with Trustmark. So
okay.
I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident in, and again, the economy itself has been tricky. We could use a lot of adjectives, but it's been very tricky in order to move forward in connection with a lot of developments that are out there, and so there's a lot of real estate companies, a lot of folks that are not able to weather the storm, and we've been successful at being able to do that, and to the extent we need to put additional capital into the projects, we do. To the extent we negotiate forbearance agreements, resolutions to the senior lender, that's what we're doing as well, to approach these in a professional manner to make sure that the projects are completed and everyone gets the benefit of their bargain.
So, do you have forbearance agreements now with lenders in place?
A number. And again, look at it from the economic times that we have. If it's very difficult at this point in time, principally because most lenders that are out there are under a high degree of scrutiny from whether it's the Federal Reserve, whether it's bank examiners on the state level or on a federal level, for them to reduce the concentration that they have in real estate loans, which means that most lenders out there are not making new loans on real estate projects. And so when I say a forbearance agreement, we may have had a loan mature on a particular project, and a forbearance agreement may be as simple as, great, we will renew this loan for another year, and here are the terms upon which we're willing to do that. And so as it relates to those type of situations or forbearance agreements, we probably have them on 3/4 of our properties. just by virtue of the fact that you could not get them refinanced, so we had to go back to the same lender to refinance them internally.
You guys have that much money in reserve?
I'm not quite sure where that number came from, but we've got sufficient capital. Without going into we're a private company, but we've got sufficient capital, and we've got hundreds of millions of dollars of assets that we have within our portfolio.